show.
fast.
What you eating? What's on the menu tonight?
Oh, it's just Chinese, man. I ain't had time to cook. I got my run. I'm getting back to running at 5 miles today. We're getting back.
I'm starting tomorrow running, man. I'm excited.
All right, we got a real busy show, guys. So let's get to it. Here we go. All right, we're back to Talking Preps. We got a big agenda today. The big news, let's just get right to it. Alex, some state lawmakers wanted to launch an investigation into the NCHSAA. They're concerned about where the money's going. Your thoughts?
In the words of our longtime friend, Mr. Charlie Adams, they've done nothing wrong. You want to launch a probe? Go for it. And you will find many, many examples of exemplary service for the boys and girls of North Carolina. I do find it interesting that you want to launch a probe into an organization that you allowed to disassociate itself from state government. And now you want to probe. You gave up the right to probe when you allowed the disassociation. But now you want to probe. But like I said, in the words of Charlie Adams, they've done nothing wrong. Not going to worry about it. Next.
Dale.
I agree. I'm with transparency, so I don't mind the probe, but I'm just worried that they're going to try to use the money for something else, and I'm talking about our state government. They're going to try to get their hands in on it. But go ahead. I don't think they're going to find any problems.
I want to go to Chris. What are your thoughts here?
Well, I'm kind of between Alex and I'm kind of between Dale. I do not mind the probe. I do not mind the transparency. In fact, I think there should be radical transparency. I think that we should be able to see the monies that's there and just to make sure that the schools know that it's been spent the right way. But I'll be also say something that I've said dozens of times over, and I'll continue to say dozens of times. I think that our NCHSAA and Q Tucker and the staff and the board of directors and everybody in that office does a great job. So I do not want to see the state dipping their hands in trying to administer the sports because it just don't compare to what the Athletic Association already does.
Yeah, Q Tucker made a statement this afternoon basically saying, we have nothing to hide. We welcome any investigation that may come. Gary, your thoughts? I know you had some specific thoughts about this topic as well.
Well, I really don't trust the legislature that much. From my experience as a teacher, I know what they did with our longevity money and told us it was a raise, but all they did was take money we already were promised and put it in a different pot and gave it to us, but it was the same money. But they called it a raise. So I don't trust the legislature from that perspective. And I just don't like to see the legislature get involved with sports. A while back, they had to make North Carolina State and UNC play East Carolina just so that they can get certain allocation of funding. So, I don't like the legislature being involved in this, but so be it.
All right. Well, it looks like that's going to happen. Well, everybody wants to talk about these high school football playoff pairings. And I just think we got to get right to it. Let's go to the corner. Let's let the expert do what he does, and let's talk about it.
And guys, if you go back to the very first thing that I said when you asked me what I thought about the upcoming selections, we're going back last week, I said that some really, really, really good teams would be left out. And obviously we saw that to be the case. And there's been a whole lot of social media turmoil and a lot of stuff going on about it. But this 1A bracket, I think, is a really interesting bracket. There you see in the West, you've got number 1, Elkin at Andrews. You've got number 5 and number 8, Murphy, going against each other. I mean, number Murphy and Thomas Jefferson. One thing I didn't want to throw out about that, guys, that is Coach Jerry Cash and Coach David Gentry going at it. I compiled the numbers today. That is 777 coaching wins on that field that night. So two incredible programs. Mitchell and Christ the King. Mitchell should move forward in that game, and then you got Robinson and Winston-Salem Prep, which I think is a really interesting game. Over on the flip side in the East, you got West Columbus, Pamlico, Rosewood, Northside, Beargrass. Beargrass is a tough team. Perquimans is very talented, so that's going to be a good 3-6 matchup. You got Northampton there at number 2. They've only played, I think, 3 ball games since coming back from the COVID late in the year. It says 1 and 3. I thought they might have been 1 and 2. But either way, but looking at this bracket, guys, I really see this as being Rosewood potentially coming out of the East. A really good team over there in Johnston County. Actually, Rosewood is over there in Wayne County. My bad. On the other side of the line, just across from Princeton. And then Robbinsville, we've got Murphy, you've got Robbinsville, you've got some heavy hitters. But I think Robbinsville is probably the team to look at. They're on a 26-game winning streak in North Carolina. And I think that they the way they handled Murphy last week, I don't see anything that prevents me from thinking that they would stop their winning ways.
Which one of those games in the East jumps out at you? You're just going to talk about one. Which one would it be?
If you're talking about the round 1 game, the game that's probably the best game would be Beargrass, Charter, and Perquimans.
Wow. Okay. Let's look at. Give me a second. Let me get up the 1AA. We can go through that real quick. Make sure I don't put the wrong one.
And before you even press the button, I'll start talking just so we can kind of get it going.
Sure.
Just for purposes here in the West, you see Polk County there at North Stanley. North Stanley has already forfeited that game due to COVID protocols that they're in. They tried everything they could to get out of it. So that's going to move Polk already to the second round. Great game right there, Community School of Davidson and North Rowan. I think Community School of Davidson may be the team to really look out for now that North Rowan or that North Stanley is out. On the bottom half of the West bracket there, you see Pine Lake Prep and Mount Airy. That is going to be an absolute battle over there at the Gray field over there in Mooresville, Northmore and East Surrey. I think ultimately it's going to come down to East Surrey. I think they're still the team to beat in the East. They're the defending state champions. And you look over there at the East bracket, you got Manio, you got Tarboro. You got John Holmes and Princeton. That's going to be the battle in the 1AA this week. Hopefully setting up either a Princeton or a Holmes Tarboro matchup in round 2. And then you see East Carteret. They're a very solid team going against Hobden. They're a very good air raid team, can score some points. But ultimately, I think this is an East Surrey versus Tarboro matchup. I mean, everything steers me to that rematch.
Okay. So you got Tarboro going all the way again?
I do. In my bracket that I filled out already,
just cut to the chase. All right, let's go to 2A. Let me find my 2A. I did make one for 2A, I think. Maybe I didn't.
Now I think a little 1A, Chris. I think Elkin could potentially.
Elkin's really good, and Elkin has an extremely strong junior and senior class, and they've got that really tough matchup with Andrews, and they've got some playoff history in the past. Have played a couple good playoff games. That's a unique first round game that either of those teams. I think Andrews could cause some trouble as well. So I do not disagree with you on that side.
Guys, I'm gonna tell you what. While I'm looking for my 2A, let's talk 3AA and let's bring in Andy Capone. I don't want to make everybody wait.
State champion coach.
I'm trying to figure it out. Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good. How are y'all?
Doing good, man. Tell me about your draw. What do you like? What do you don't like?
I like that we're in. That's the start. So you look at it. There's really good teams. I mean, you look at all the records on both sides of the bracket. There's not many losses. So we kind of told our kids. We kind of look at it as a second round playoff game. But we're glad we're in. We're glad we get another home game. We've only really had one this year, so our kids are excited to be playing at home on Friday and. It's playoff time, so that's always exciting. Whether it's 80 degrees instead of 40 degrees, but we're glad we're here and we'll be ready to roll on Friday.
having not played, that record's not right, is it? You're not 7-0. You're 5-0. Is that right? Because you missed a couple.
We've played 5, but we had 1 forfeit, so we're
okay.
So 6.
Any concern about not playing as many games as some of the other teams and being completely ready for the playoffs?
We had a little, but we've been able to play the last 2 Fridays, and we feel like we're kind of getting into a kind of a stride of things. So right now, actually, if we were in the regular season, we'd be kind of getting into our conference schedule. So we kind of feel good about where we're at right now. We've had 2 good days of practice, this week, but it's always a concern in the back of your heads. But I think our kids will be ready. So,
does playing fewer games you think help you on the injury side?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be injuries every time. I think our kids got tired of practice a little bit, but it's such a crazy year, with these kids get hurt in practice or whatnot. So we wanted to play and as many games as we could and give these kids a chance to get as much film as they could. But we're fairly healthy right now going into the playoffs, and I'm sure everybody has some nicks and bruises, but these kids are going to push through it and hopefully finish their season is strong this year.
Well, Coach, I've looked at this bracket, and just so we can go ahead and break down the 3AA for our viewers out here, I want to start with the East so we can finish with you. I think this East bracket is absolutely loaded, top to bottom. Every single team in there is a phenomenal football team. Like you mentioned, very few losses. And we know you're going to see a quality team come from the East, or regardless of who it is. Cleveland right there, Southern Durham, tough matchup. Greenville, Rose, and Lee County, I think, the absolute best game in the state this week is my opinion. West Brunswick and Chapel Hill. West Brunswick has a tremendous defense. They're a real scrappy kind of team. Chapel Hill's kind of come on strong this year. Real happy to see them, Coach Marsh, in the playoffs. It's been a little bit of a while for them. Clayton, Southeast Guilford. So, I mean, those are some quality teams. If I had to say that there's a leader coming out of there, I think Greenville Rose would be. But again, you've got to play these games each and every week to get there. Here, looking at the West bracket, Watauga and Dudley, 2 quality teams. A.L. Brown and T.C. Robertson. There could be 1,000 points scored in that game, or at least 1,000 yards. T.C. Robertson, quarterback. Brady Whitson threw for 450 against Kannapolis last year and 6 touchdowns. And, oh, by the way, Kannapolis won that game 56-50. Similar to again this year. You never know. Obviously, we got your game against Weddington. And, Coach, I want you to tell us a little – or against Asheville, Coach, but I want you to tell us in a second. I think Asheville is a much better team than people realize with that record. I've watched them on film. Coach Radford has done a great job in his first year there. So I think that's a quality team. And then the other team that I'm really, really looking out is Mount Tabor in that AC game, Alexander Central. I think outside of you, Coach, I think Mount Tabor is by far the strongest team I've seen in the 3A. I feel that assuming that you two would meet in the second round, I think that game could settle this championship. I know you as a coach don't want to look forward like that, but that's kind of how I see it. But I'll take your comments.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look around for film on all these teams a little bit when you have some free time. And the NFHS network is actually a great tool for that. So, I've been able to get a few eyes on all of them. But they're all quality teams, and just, our first round matchup, first time I really talked to Coach Radford was this week. But he's sounds like a great guy, and he's done a heck of a job there. So, he's gotten them back into the playoffs, and they're a strong team and a good football team. So, we got to make sure we come prepared every week. That's how we prepare. Is every week we got to put our best foot forward. And I think the good thing for us is our kids have been in the playoffs the last couple of years and made deep runs. So I think they know what to expect each week about getting your opponent's best shot and laying it all on the line. They got nothing to save, whether it be plays or formations or anything. So they're going to give you the best shot, everything they have, and that's what you want. That's why you play the game. I tell these guys all the time, you play those games, not the the blowouts or whatever.
Yeah, that kind of leads me into the question I wanted to ask you is, what's it like having that target? Because, 2-time state champs, heavy favorites probably going in again. The target's big.
Yeah. I think you can kind of go 2 ways with it. Don't talk about it or just be honest with your kids. And we've kind of taken the approach that, we know we have a target. I mean, it's not it's not a secret anymore. So, we talk about it, and then we just kind of mention it and say, look, we're going to get everybody's best shot. We've always feel like it, and we want it really. So, I'm not trying to say that cocky. We just want to play good games. So, we feel excited for it. Again, our kids practice extremely hard, and on Fridays we know that we're going to get a great effort from those guys. So, something that we talk about briefly, but then we move on. We go to practice, and then we go. We get ready for Friday.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, good luck to you on Friday. I think Chris is making his state championship predictions at some point. I have a strange feeling he's going to have a W team in there somewhere or another, but we'll catch you down the road. Hopefully have you back on the show.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for everything y'all do.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Mentioning that W team, Links, and I got to thinking about K, Kannapolis and the K on the helmet. And does that W start now to draw some of that same kind of fear into people's heads?
Absolutely.
Yes. All right. I found my two-way, Chris. So let's talk a little two-way.
All right, let me get the two-way paper back in front of me right here just to make sure I'm not lost. Looking at the two-way West, we're going to start right there. Number one, Hendersonville is hosting Bunker Hill. This Bunker Hill team, if you've paid attention the past couple of weeks of the show, the second Sweet 16 that we put out, this team has been steadily rising in that second Sweet 16. Bunker Hill is a very tough team. Hendersonville's played some great games. They've kind of had some barn burners against Franklin, against Pisgah. Hendersonville, I think, is a very battle-tested team. So certainly want to keep an eye out for the Bearcats up there. Walkertown's 5-0. Walkertown has not played a football game, I think, in about a month and a half or so with all the COVID protocols that they've dealt with. I really think they've only played 4 on the field. I think that one win is a forfeit. Going against Shelby, I know Dale and I sat there and watched Shelby up close against Kings Mountain. Shelby, on the flip side, has played some really tough competition. So I think that we'll see that in their game. West Lincoln and Mount Pleasant, the Rebels over there at West Lincoln, very scrappy team, very tough team. This Mount Pleasant team, though, is a team that has just been tearing up opponents. Very, very solid team. That's kind of the team I've got circled for later on in some latter rounds. Fort Village having just a epic year for their school, 6-0. Mountain Heritage. Mountain Heritage is another team that hadn't played football in a while due to COVID, so it'd be interesting to see how the rest versus the on-field action helps them. Looking there at the East, you got 2 of the all-time 2A powers going head-to-head Friday night in Southwest Onslow, heading up to Reedsville. Red Springs and Wallace Rose Hill. Wallace Rose Hill, you see that 4-3 record, very uncharacteristic for them, but they have played some of the toughest teams in Eastern North Carolina that you can get, played a very aggressive schedule, plus coming from that very tough conference. I truthfully think that the Bulldogs would probably be favored. You got that big game in Kinston or in Elizabeth City, Northeastern hosting Kinston. Kinston lost a 50-49 game to Washington Friday night. They led 35-0, I think, at the half and lost the game 50-49 in overtime. And then Eastern Randolph at Clinton, again, 2 other staples of 2A football going head-to-head.
There's a lot of big matchups. I mean, I know we're getting week 2, week 1, but it just seems to be even bigger than you would anticipate in the second.
It reminds me. I mean, most of us have been around football a long time. I know Dale has. Gary has. It reminds me of the old days prior to subdividing in 2002. I mean, it's really like the old days where you did not have a week off when it came to the playoffs.
As you look at this 2AA bracket, tell me about the 2 games in the West, 2 games in the East to jump out at you.
The 2 games in the East that jump out at me is the Randleman at St. Paul's. I think St. Paul's is a team on a mission. I've got them probably in the 3rd round. Conversely, on the top half, Washington right there. I think that they're a team that I think could represent the East out of the in the bracket. And on that top side, I mean, really every game's good. You've got Pisgah and North Davidson, which stand out. But the team, and High Brighton as well, High Brighton and Burns. But I'm telling you, the team I've kind of got my eyes on is that Salisbury Hornet team. Went to the state championship game last year. They've got 2 losses But those 2 losses came when they did not have a Georgia-bound linebacker, 4-star linebacker Jalen Walker. He was out in the injury. They lost both those games very tight to 2 of the best teams in 2A in Oak Grove and North Davidson. This Salisbury team is an animal when he's on the field and he's back full speed. I think they're a team to look out for.
Coach Hickman thinks this agrees with you. This looks like the old days 1995 type of bracket we got going on. So it should be fun. All right, we're going to talk about a little 4A football. We're going to bring in my man Glenwood Ferebee out of Vance High School. How you doing, Coach?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I know Gary's dying to ask you this question, but I'm just going to ask. I'm going to get off the screen. 17 offensive penalties against Huff. What happened and how you guys fixed that?
Man, it was a rough. It was rough, and we worked on it today. The fundamentals, just getting back to the fundamentals of football. The kids' feet, weren't moving their feet. They weren't, doing the things that they were supposed to do. So we've been focusing on them since yesterday. So hopefully we don't have those issues again.
I took myself out of the screen. I'm sorry.
Can you
Gary.
hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Coach. Coach, I was at the game Friday night, and what surprised me more than anything was the pre-snap penalties. Was that a function of a new cadence, a new center, or was Huff doing something defensively like stemming, or were they faking a snap count? What caused so many pre-snap penalties?
No, we did change the cadence up this week. Just because they get off the ball so fast. They got the great D-line, man. So we tried to do some things different to try to slow them down. Curtis Neal gets off the ball, and he impacted the game a lot, as you've seen. So we tried to do some things to try to slow him down, and it affected us. It affected us on our side of the ball when it came to jumping off sides and snapping the ball over the quarterback's head and things like that. So we kind of outcoached. We kind of outcoached ourselves in that aspect. Just trying to do something different to slow them down. But, you live and you learn.
Coach, I wanted to ask, I know we actually spoke before you guys played Huff. Once you got out to the game and kind of going back and watching the film, was there anything that surprised you kind of going back to your pregame thoughts versus actually going through the game and playing them?
No, we made a lot of mistakes. Not to take anything from what they did. They came out and played hard, and they did what they needed to do to get the win. We made some mistakes that cost us, throughout the course of the game. And football is a game of momentum. So some of those momentum plays we didn't get that we normally would get because of mistakes. So we talked about that, and we got to play a sound. We got to win all 3 phases of the game, and that's what we've been preaching all week. They beat us in the special teams, and they beat us defensively the other night. So that kind of affected us. The kids, right now they're licking their wounds, but nothing really surprised me. They're a good football team, so nothing really surprised me. I figured if we didn't play a perfect football game, we would be in a dogfight.
Question for you, Coach Ferebee. How you doing, brother? The emotional aspect, like in a game versus like you guys versus Huff, where there's everything's riding on it, the last game. How do you, as a coach, like manage the emotions that are going in from your players and your coaches? Because everybody knows each other in the IMAC, and that could be good, bad. Do you welcome it, or like what's your strategy in that?
It's tough, man. It's tough being that we were state champions last year. It's kind of those things you try to manage. My first instinct the other night was not to even warm up on the field because I knew that it would get to that point, and I wanted my kids laser focused. But I went with it, and it cost me. It not cost me, but it cost us because my kids got distracted. Folks got distracted, and it became more of a us against them, meaning who gonna have the bragging rights instead of playing football games. So it kind of bit us. It kind of bit us in the butt. That won't happen again. And I told the kids, I said, man, at the end of the day, you can't talk this game. You got to play this football game. They talked it, and they stood behind everything that they said. They stood behind everything that they said. We talked it, and we didn't. So now it's that humble pie that comes where you got to go back and say, you know what? Let's be humble. And I got caught up in it as well. We are adrenaline gets flowing. So I got caught in it. It ain't just on my kids, it's on me as well. I got caught up in it, but it won't happen again. I'm gonna be the person that I always been, and that's been a humble dude, and teach my kids to play the same way and just let the play on the field talk for itself.
Gotcha. Appreciate it, Coach.
Yes.
We're going to check out some brackets, man. We want your opinions on small 4A and big 4A. Isn't that right? Yeah.
All right.
Hey, but before we hit the brackets, I think Grice had a quick question we was going to try to throw up there. We just want to talk a couple other items from your game this past Friday, Coach. Grice, you got a question?
Well, Coach, you know I had to ask, man. What's up with the snaps, Coach? Like, what happened? Like, I know that's not y'all. Like, I know it, but that was the biggest thing that surprised me. What happened?
We talked about the punt snaps. We don't punt much. So when
That's exactly what I said.
They don't look at it that way. They don't look at it that way. But when you got a first year snapper at punter, and he's never been in a pressure situation like that, and you haven't really punted much all year. Not saying that you expect it, but you kind of understand. He's a 10th grader. Never been in that situation. Came up from JV, and the game got too big for him. Game got too big for him. So we've been working on it this week, where we snap over there. The whole punt team has just try to put that pressure on him, where it's like, okay, everything's riding on me. So we try to create those situations, this week for him to get out there and snap the ball the way that he normally snaps it.
Outstanding. Well, Coach, we want to look here at the brackets. We're going to start on the 4A side first, and we'll work our way up to your 4AA bracket. Looking at the East, got some really good teams that have kind of moved down to the East from traditional 4AA roles. You got that big game, Pine Forest at Cardinal Gibbons. Obviously, they were in the state championship game last year. Middle Creek at Richmond County. I think that's a game that a lot of people have their eyes on. Obviously, Richmond is 3-0. Missed a few games due to the protocol, but they looked really, really strong in the games they played. Scotland County 4-1 coming out of that same Southeastern Conference. Sand Hills Conference against New Bern, who has looked really dominant in their body of work as well. Jack Britt, Southview, two Fayetteville teams going at it. I think a lot of people are kind of thinking Richmond might be the team to beat in that bracket, but yeah, I don't think we can overlook Cardinal Gibbons as well. Looking at the top side, East Forsyth, who got in at 3-3, kind of some wacky scoring that led to some teams outside looking in. West Forsyth was 4-1, did not make it in. And East Forsyth did at 3-3, going by the conference winning percentage. Going against Grimsley, who I think everybody's looking at as one of the powers. Durham Hillside at South Caldwell. Butler at Glen, I think that's another one of these games in the 4A a lot of people are looking at. And Hickory Ridge, two Charlotte area teams going at it head-to-head with Providence. I'll throw it out to you guys. Any takes on this? Coach, maybe what do you think about it?
It blows my daggone mind. Woman is not in this. I mean, I know there's like a rule that you have the first, second place. I'm talking about like I'm gonna be straight up. South Caldwell, they wouldn't be on the same playing field as Lake Norman. Like
that's the thing, man. Saturday, I'm texting the Oliphant and Fitz, and I don't care if I'm saying it in public. I'm texting them, don't get fined. I'm like, we're all hanging out, don't get fined. But I think the bigger thing here, I mean, that's number one. I think the second piece, Chris, you talked about earlier. I can't remember what game you said was your number one game in the state, but that Scotland County New Bern might be number two. I mean, you talk about those two teams, Scotland County going down, to New Bern. Coach Bailey being, a guy that's been in the state so many times. You talk about a tough first round matchup at New Bern. I think that's going to be one there. But the other thing, Brian, when have you seen Butler in 4 single A?
I know.
Yeah, that was surprising to me.
County, I think that's the bigger thing.
Compete in the 4AA. I thought that they were probably the third best team behind Huff and Vance, but like I thought now they could end up sneaking and get a state championship out of nowhere. I want to know, Coach Ferebee, since you're not in the small 4A, I want you to make a prediction, make a bold prediction. Who's going to win it all for the West?
Whew, man.
Now you got to know. That's that Virginia. You know about North Carolina.
I think it's gonna come down to Richmond. I don't know what the brackets look like, but I think it's gonna come down to Richmond and Butler.
Yep.
I think it's gonna come down to Richmond and Butler. That Butler and Glen game is gonna be an interesting one with the styles of football they play. So that's gonna be interesting. But I think it's gonna come down to Richmond or Butler.
Yeah.
I wouldn't sleep on Grimsley though. That was it, the Lonzo Barnett kid up there at QB. He's probably one of the best QBs if you look in this bracket on the west and the east side. I like him a lot. So
he's only a junior too.
Strong and was strong last year.
Mm-hmm. Hey, did I remind all you guys that we're going?
I think that's going to be interesting Friday night. Coach, your Cougars are going to play at Ardrey-Kell, Olympic, at Panther Creek, going all the way to Raleigh. That's going to be a little bit of a bus ride. And then Northwest Guilford 6-1 at Myers Park, who's 7-0. Guys, I'll throw it to you.
Well, I'm going to say one thing about the Vance and Ardrey-Kell game. I think Vance prefers to play on the turf with their speed. I think it's a huge advantage getting to go play at Ardrey-Kell instead of playing on their own grass. The only time that where things can get a little muddy is if the field conditions got a little muddy and it was wet and things like that. They don't get to use their explosion. They're very fast on all aspects of the game. And so I think that's a huge advantage actually going to Ardrey-Kell. That's something that sticks out to me.
One of the things that sticks out to me is the fact that you have 2 Wake County teams playing in the West and some other Wake County teams playing in the East.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. But I think one big thing here, though, is that this bracket isn't as much the Fight Club as it's been in the past, Chris. Like I think I'm used to seeing, last year we see Vance Butler as a round 1 game. I mean, you talk about a slugfest in round 1. We don't really have, to me, looking at this from the west side, we don't really have that slugfest game, even with a smaller bracket that I look to and say, hey, this could be a game I think it could cause some trouble.
Well, not only that,
early on. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Well, no, I'm just kind of agreeing with you. And not only that, we're used to seeing this 4AA West as this huge gauntlet with obviously the Vance and the Huffs and the Mallard Creeks of the world and Richmond County, Butler, and a lot of those guys that, we've seen go east or go to the small bracket. Go back 4 or 5 years ago, we even clumped East Forsyth in there. I remember them playing a couple epic playoff games. So, yeah, I mean, we're not seeing that kind of gauntlet in the West that we've seen in years past.
One thing, Chris, I'm curious of here is
that now don't get it twisted. There's some goblins. There's just
there is.
Well, one thing I'm interested in is we saw New Bern and Forest Single A. Chris, I'm interested to hear Hoggard against Leesville Road. I mean, those teams way down east have been doing pretty well. I'm ready to see kind of that matchup between like the Raleigh area and like Brunswick County, New Bern out in that way, see how that looks, because those teams look like they've been tough from the little bit I've seen. So we'll be interested to see if we can get a shakeup in the East with that. But I guess I want to ask Coach about his first round matchup. What have you seen so far from Ardrey-Kell, and what are some of the things so far you think that could potentially give you trouble?
They're well coached, man. They're fundamentally sound. They do what they do well. So my kids can't go out, underestimating them. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Us not going out and underestimating them, just because they don't play in the IMAC conference. And everybody knows we have a tough schedule week in and week out. So that I think that's the biggest worry with us. And they have I think two pretty good wideouts that they have that could potentially, cause us some issues if we're not focused.
Coach, how do you approach this playoff season as opposed to last season? Are you out to defend the title, or are you taking it as you're a challenger just like everybody else?
I'm trying to come across as the challenger because my kids play better on the edge. When their back is up against the wall, they play a whole lot better, as opposed to everybody expecting them to win. Last year everybody expected us to lose. Each week we went out, and my kids went out and took care of business because they played the underdog role. So I'm trying to find a way now to put them in that underdog role as opposed to going out and saying, hey, we're defending the title. Because sometimes when you're defending the title, you backed up in the corner, playing defense as opposed to going out and attacking the game the way that it needs to be attacked.
And Coach Ferebee, to kind of expand upon that thought, and you're absolutely right. And I see that method with coaching the kids, because I we did that a lot at Douglas Byrd. It was the same kind of mentality. But you kind of take on that Road Warriors mindset. Looking at you as the 5 seed, you're potentially going to be on the road every game this week or this playoffs. And I think that's something you can kind of take with us and just kind of take it as an us versus them mindset, from the bus ride to getting there, beating them in their own stadium. Because I tell you from experience, there was nothing better for me as a coach to go to somebody else's stadium in the playoffs and whip them and go home knowing that you're the better team.
Oh, definitely. And that's the thing that happened last year, where we went in each week with a chip on our shoulder because we were on the road. We was the 10th seed, and this year we're the 5th seed. So as a coach, you try to find those little small things to give your team some motivation. And, that's what we've been harping on all week. Like, hey, we lost one to Huff, but we're a 5th seed. So let's go out and show everybody we should have been a number 1 and number 2 seed, regardless of the loss. We should have been in the top. We should have been hosting. So those are the things that we're preaching to our kids. They're trying to get them an edge to go out and, do the things that they're supposed to do.
So, Coach, all right, so we got you, like I said, got another run. So what do you think is going to be the biggest key for you guys to repeat? Because, this year's a lot different. Last year, people kind of, knew that you guys were tough. But then in the playoffs, you showed such a dominant run. You've continued that run now. So what do you think now is going to be that key? You talked about the backs against the wall mentality, but we know, that's going to be an uphill battle. But what are you really looking to dig into with your team to get them to continue that focus to go ahead and get that second state title?
Just the execution of everything, special teams, offense and defense, taking the game plan and executing it, going out and playing advanced football and staying healthy. That was one of the biggest things that I said to my coach. I said, we got to stay healthy. And we're banged up a little bit. We're banged up a little bit now, so we're trying to get healthy. We're limping in, but I think we'll be fine. But we're limping in right now. But just executing, man, and not making mistakes to kill ourselves. As you seen last week, if we don't make no mistakes, we feel like, that's a different game if we don't make the mistakes that we made. So we lost, but at the same time, it wasn't like we got dominated. So, we got some type of confidence going into the playoffs, but at the same time, I don't want them to be overconfident. So we're basically preaching, hey, we can go home at any point. We lost to Huff this past week. Imagine if that was this week. We could be going home. You could be packing your stuff up. You could be taking the stickers off your helmet. You could be taking shoulder pads and put them on the shoulder pad rack. So little small things like that, man. We're trying to hone in on. And then sometimes it's just a mental thing with my kids. Just being around them for the past year, we don't have power echoes. We don't have power echoes to get guys, up and going.
Greatest leader.
He was a great leader, man. And we're trying to find kids, and we still we have 29 seasons, but we're still young in our positions where guys are impact players. We're still young, and it's kind of tough to get them guys to emulate the thing that Power did, because Power was one of a kind. But when you got a guy like that on your team, he pretty much willed us, playoffs. Him, Stephon Thompson, those guys willed us. So now it's who's that guy going to be, or who those guys going to be coming up these next couple of weeks. And that's the challenge going into the playoffs. Who's going to be those guys that we can lean on?
Coach, speaking of Power Echoes, have you heard how he's doing up there in spring practice at Carolina?
Coach, they called me, Big Pen called me the other day. I think he texted me. No, he texted me and told me that Power looks like first-round draft pick as a freshman.
I told everybody he'd be starting by mid-season.
So they said they out there. They're supposed to be third. They're supposed to be third, and then Power's out there running through guys.
Coach Ferebee, I appreciate you taking your time to come out here and talk some football and talk the brackets with us, taking some time out of your schedule. So we appreciate that. I do want to say one thing. You mentioned taking off the helmet stickers, and I saw this before the season started, how you had the decal for the last Vance on there. And I know that this season's got especially special meaning, given it's the last year of that namesake. So I just wanted to give you props for that. And I know that this is a very meaningful playoff run you guys are embarking on, and wanted to wish you good luck.
Say that one more time. The last part broke up.
Well, I just wanted to, I know it's a very special meaning for you, given that this is the last run for the last Vance, and with your helmet decals and everything I've seen. And we know it's going to be a special deal for everybody involved. So we just wanted to wish you good luck.
All right. I appreciate y'all.
Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Are we still meeting, Coach Ferebee?
Yeah, we definitely are. Yep.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow, brother.
All right, boss.
All right, that's Glenwood Ferebee. All right, Sam, are you ready?
Man, I like been training all day today for this.
One down.
I'm like training. I'm like working on my dag.
Grice already has the thumbs down. Are you,
man? That gummy. Grice supposed to back me somehow.
all right, we got my man Dylan Bisson on from Mountain Island Charter down in Gaston County. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well, man. I really enjoyed watching your film with Coach Griner. And before we get started, I'm going to call it up and let everybody see what Sam saw. Here we go. All right, Coach Griner. We finally got you taking L last week.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that. You don't remember that.
We won last night.
West Charlotte won. You took an L last week. I got a young man coming in from Belmont, Mountain Island Charter. Dylan Bisson, quarterback, says he's going to take you down. I know you're going to say you're going to win. So just tell me what you see on film with this young fella.
Yeah. Well, I watched this film. I studied it for about 20 minutes today. And you see that pass that he just had right there? Out of all the quarterbacks I've seen this entire year, he does the best job of looking in the middle of the field. That's the most vulnerable position to a defense a lot of times. Mm-hmm. He throws the best balls across the middle, and he keeps his eyes downfield, and he works his way through the pocket. As you can see, there's a couple of times where he gets a little bit of pressure, and he steps up in the pocket, and he makes great throws. But like my favorite thing he does is how he throws the ball in the middle of the field. You'll see it further as the highlight goes. He's really, really good at stepping up in the pocket and giving us guys an opportunity to make plays in the middle of the field.
Do you think a guy like this gets lost at a small school like Mountain Island Charter that it may be a serious Division I quarterback?
I don't think that he gets lost in the shuffle. No, I think that he gets plenty of opportunities. It's just there's a lot of good quarterbacks out there right now, and you don't know exactly what colleges are looking for. If they're looking at a certain height, if they're looking at athleticism, you don't know what they're looking for sometimes. And a lot of times these quarterbacks, they're getting recruited as freshmen and sophomores, and they're ahead of the curve from other positions. So
his film looks pretty good to me, but I tell you what else he's going to do. He's going to beat you on Tuesday night.
Doesn't he have people coming after him or no?
I'm not sure, but he's coming after you on Tuesday night. I know that. All right. Well, there we go. Dylan, to answer Coach Grice's question, how is the recruiting going? You getting any looks yet?
Currently, I'm not getting any looks. I'm kind of just enjoying the process of everything right now. I didn't play much my last year. This year was really my first year on varsity. Okay. So right now I'm just enjoying everything. Yeah.
What year are you?
Junior. I'm a junior.
Are you junior? That's fine. You still got some time. I mean, it'd been nice if you got some playing time your sophomore year because, like I said, quarterbacks they're like a year ahead of other positions. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of weird how that works out because a lot of times teams only take one per year, stuff like that. When they might take 5 offensive linemen.
Well, I tell you what, that film looked good. It just got blasted out to a whole lot of people. So hopefully that'll help you a little bit.
You got great in the middle of the field, man. Really good stuff.
So the show works this way. It's a multiple choice. You pick the answer. Sam picks the answer, and then we just add up the points at the end. Sam took an L last week. We're trying to make him 0 for 2. So good luck, Dylan. Dale, send us off. Here we go.
All right. Good luck. Which NFL star does TikTok dances on regular? Zeke Elliott, Juju Smith, Antonio Miller, or Odell Beckham?
Antonio Brown.
You said Antonio Brown, right?
Yeah,
it's Antonio Brown. Not Antonio Brown.
He's thinking of an old Olympic player, but I know what he means.
I say B, Juju.
B, Juju.
It's 100% B. It's Juju Smith-Schuster.
Okay, you guys both are correct. So we're 1-1. That was really fast. Sam didn't even go to his.
I can roll down. Y'all be giving me some daggone country music and stuff.
Sam didn't even go to his thing like when he goes to his Google fingers under the screen. Kids, here you go.
Man, y'all really think I did? Look, man.
Well, Grice was making fun of my questions in the chat. So I had to come with a hard run. What sports writer gave Magic Johnson his nickname? A, Jack Ramsey, B, John Wooden, C, Jack Stabley, or D, Chick Hearn?
Sam's first.
Mm-hmm. The answer is D, Chick Hearn.
And I'm gonna go. I think it's D2.
Dang, you guys are tied 1-1. I mean 2-2.
2-2. Yeah, like we both got. Like I was just too confident answering that, wasn't I?
You are.
I honestly didn't know that. I just try to sound confident. But
you were very confident. All right, Dale.
Come on, Dylan. You can't be daggone picking my stuff like that.
All right.
Wait a minute.
Dale, we don't need your comment.
It wasn't Chick Hearn. I've got a perforated ear. I do. I have a perforated ear, but it wasn't Chick Hearn that gave him that name, right? So you both got that wrong.
No, we got it right.
You got it wrong.
He said that we got it right.
Chick Hearn did not give him that name.
Well, it says it right there, sports writer. Like what? We're 2-0. We're 2-2.
Chick Hearn was a play-by-play. He was a play-by-play guy for the Lakers, but it was a high school sports writer who gave him that name. That. Huh?
He actually probably.
How do I know that? I'm a Lakers fan.
But because I was wrong, we're just going to leave it tied.
Oh my goodness! Because I love that question. Whoever put it together.
That's my mom. My mom does the old ones. I do the young ones. It's a team effort.
See, Dr. Jack, he coached Portland. He coached Portland. So I mean, all those people could have given him that name. That was an awesome selection. But by the way, it was not Chick Hearn. Okay.
No, you're right. You're right. Greg Hitman's correcting me also. Okay, Dale, go with your question.
Okay. All right. So make sure I'm looking at the same thing here. What TV show about a boy band? And boy, this is going to be an answer for me here. Just premiered on Netflix. One Direction, Day in the Life, Boys, 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 Austin and Ally, or Big Time Rush. Boy, this is
I'm gonna go with D, Big Time Rush.
Sam.
Golly, I really don't know.
Let me see your hands. Let me see your other hand.
Look, man, I'm just thinking, man. Let me think. What TV show about a boy?
And don't have your daughter come whisper the answer from the other room either.
His wife's over on the other side.
I'm watching Netflix too, but I don't remember seeing anything like that. I'm gonna go A.
You both got it wrong. It was B. Boys, Boys, Boys. So we are still tied.
Wait, no, it wasn't. It's Big Time Rush.
It was Big Time Rush?
No.
Yeah, I've been watching it.
Yeah, I thought I had that one.
Your answer says B.
Right now.
Yeah, I thought I had that one.
The answer is B. You can't be there going to
No, the answer is D.
No.
Okay, well, Dylan got it right, but what you gave me has B.
He ain't going at it. You say he's got it wrong.
Exactly. What was emailed to us was B.
The email says B, the answer is D. So Dylan got it right. You're down, Sam.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
That's on me.
I'm serious. You're down.
You want me to sing the song, Sam?
No.
Because I can sing the freaking song.
Right now, because all of a sudden, if he would have guessed, here's the thing: if he would have guessed B and he would have said he got it correct, and I answered D, we wouldn't have changed it. That's what I'm saying. Like we would.
Right.
But you got it wrong, so it doesn't matter.
You're down.
Let's blow the whistle. Let's blow the whistle.
We're good. Kinsey.
In the show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, what music group inspired Nicki's name? A, Rob Bass, and DJ Easy, Rock. B, Earth, Wind, or Fire. C, Boyz II Men, or D, Belle Bib Devo.
Who's first? Is Dylan's first this time?
Yeah, I went first last time.
Oh, Sam first.
Sam first. I'm gonna roll with I'm gonna go with some old school. Guess like B, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
All right, Dylan, what you got?
I'm gonna go.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I'm gonna go.
No, don't look at mom and dad. You can't look.
I'm gonna go C. I'm gonna go C. I'm gonna go C.
C is correct.
I'm not gonna lie. That one was a guess. I'm not gonna lie. That one was a guess.
Sam, you must win this one, or you're done.
That was
Come back,
Sam.
Come on, Sam.
Fucking Boys the Men. Dadgummit.
You got to get this one, Sam.
I like Earth, Wind, and Fire, by the way, Sam.
You're doing me, Sam, in golf. You're doing me right now. Let's go, Dale.
Okay, so this is not something Dale has to worry about, but what hairstyles from the 80s is back? A, the mullet, B, the perm, C, bleached, or D, all? Why didn't the Kojak one? Well, wasn't that one on there? The Kelly Savalas.
Kojak.
I'm gonna say D, all the above.
Yeah, like I have to say, golly.
You don't have to say. You say the right answer.
So, I mean, I think my answer would have been D, but obviously I can't pick D. I'm going to go with A, mullet.
Oh, Sam, you on a 2-week losing streak, my friend. D was the
I
correct
don't understand why you can't pick the right answer.
D was the correct answer.
Bad setup. Dylan freaking, I'm telling you, like ever since I won like 5 in a row.
No, it was not 5 in a row. You had a tie.
They give y'all
two times.
When you get on the show, Dylan's bull crap. Like, they give y'all. They literally send you a cheat sheet. Just go A, B, C, A, B.
I'm sorry I had to do it to you. But.
There you go, Dylan. Talk your talk.
Wow. Now we got to start pulling for Sam.
I know, right?
Maybe if you watched the video I sent you in the chat last week, you would have won this week, but you didn't.
Well, Dylan, man, thanks for coming on. I know you're going to get ready for the fall and hopefully get recruited a little bit. Maybe have you back on the show, get you on Fresh Faces. Let Sam talk about it some more. I hope the video he did will help you in your recruiting journey. And please support us and watch the show every Tuesday.
See you, Dylan.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
All right, man. Take care.
Did I say Antonio Miller? Is that what I said?
You did. You did say Antonio Miller.
I thought I swear I thought I said Antonio Brown. Yeah. Miller shouldn't even be clicking in my head anymore.
We were struggling right there.
Man, y'all gotta get the answers right before you ask the questions.
I know.
That's on me. That's on me.
We gotta work on that.
I only knew a couple of those. Boy, those were.
I knew the Chick Herman was.
I don't think he got one.
I knew that one, and I knew the heroin.
All right, I have a question for the room. Are you guys surprised at who did not make the NCHSAA playoffs?
Yeah.
Nope. Not at all. Not at all.
Lake Norman.
All right,
number one and number 2 teams in the state and don't make the playoffs.
Let Alex go. Alex said not at all first. Go ahead, Alex. Why not?
It is what it is. I said earlier this year that this was a year unto itself, that things were going to happen and you had to go with what was. And you can only talk about the teams who are in the playoffs. You can only play the teams that are put before you. And if you did what you needed to do to get the job done, congratulations to you. There's no point in us going on with this meaningless conjecture about teams not being in the playoffs.
I don't care what he said.
Sounds like a guy from the eastern part of the state.
You can only play who's put in.
Don't play our teams in.
Okay, hold on.
Don't play them teams in
the you never make playoffs.
Wait, it's the same. Sam, wait. I can't understand all that. Grice, talk.
I just think it's ridiculous when you have a team in a situation that we understand that the conferences are different, first off. We understand that there is a great level of the degree of difficulty between a lot of conferences. This isn't just at the 4A level. We saw this with South Point. They lost 1 game by 3 points in Belmont and didn't make the playoffs. There you have a situation where different conferences have different degrees of difficulty. There was no indication or no care of that at all. And we pretty much, they walked us into this whole big old issue. The problems occurred, and you have teams like Lake Norman, teams like South Point that did what they asked to do, and now these coaches and these administrators have to tell their kids, because of this imperfect system, we don't make the playoffs. And that's life, but hey, we're looking to see some teams that don't deserve to be in the playoffs get their freaking skull bashed in week 1. We're going to look and say, what happened?
Well, I have two things I would say. First of all, Cuthbertson had to play Catholic and Weddington, 2 state champions in 5 days of each other. Lost both games, finished I think 5-2. So they were in a similar situation in Lake Norman. On the screen, I have a letter from a former Lake Norman athletic director to the state association. And I guess the second thing, the state did tell us way back when that this was going to be the case. Chris, your thoughts here? Are you surprised that this kind of play out the way you thought it was going to play out?
Well, to kind of piggyback on what Alex just said, we knew what was going to happen going into the situation. So there's no reason to be surprised. You've seen the rules. And if you'd have watched Talking Preps 3 weeks ago when Q Tucker was on here, she even telegraphed. She knew that it was going to happen. They had realized that the rules were written that way. But by that time, the rules are what they were. And we knew what the case was going to be. Now, you can look at the letter from Steve Rankin, and you can go by a lot of the social media conversations and stuff about should some teams been forced to make up their games, or should, you can play that conjecture all you want and then start looking at the winning percentage. But I also think that, you should have accounted for a team like West Forsyth that was 4-1 that got let out of the playoffs because of the winning percentage as well. So, it just kind of goes back to me. It reminds me of, the pre-2002 when it was only one playoff bracket. I remember very well being a member on the staff at South Rowan. We won the conference and dominated a lot of people, and we were on the outside looking in. So it just kind of is what it is.
Gary.
Two things. I think the state should have learned from basketball and taken best practices from what happened in the basketball season by saying you had to play a set minimum amount of games. Okay, and I think that would alleviate some of this controversy about teams playing a certain number of games. And then the second thing I think they should have done is put two teams from each level, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, as first teams out. So if you had a situation where either Monday or Tuesday some team couldn't play because of COVID, you could easily put that team into that position in the first week. That's what the NCAA did with their play-in that first week. They said, here are the first teams out. If somebody should get COVID before we start the tournament, we'll slide these teams in. And I think they could have done those two things, set a minimum and had substitute teams prior to the first round. And I think that would alleviate some of this controversy.
Yeah, the NCHSAA already has the existing structure in place to be able to handle situations like this, especially with wild card. So the fact that they go to such an archaic measure, such as winning record without an even set of games, is baffling to me. We have the max preps, we had the ADMs, we had a situation where we could define arbitrary power rankings that would place certain teams ahead of other teams. So the fact that the NCHSAA already had this in place and then chose to just completely shoo away with it just for some measure of winning record without a set minimum number of games is ridiculous. I mean, I think you saw a situation in which teams could strategically, I'll say this as best I can, could strategically adjust their schedule in a way that because of certain COVID protocols, they could not have to play certain games in order to keep their winning record the way it was. They elected to do so, which was within the defined rules, and were rewarded for that. So whether you caught COVID on your team, maybe potentially by not following certain safety protocols, or whether another team in your conference didn't, you were rewarded. Whereas other teams in this area, where we're in an area where we're some of the highest COVID cases in our area, we got to play all of our games in this city, and a lot of teams were penalized for that. You can't tell me a Lake Norman team that loses to the number 1 and number 2 team in the state doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs simply by a measure such as winning record. That's terrible.
The number 1 and number 2 team in the entire state.
So exactly. I agree with you, Grice, 100%. I think when we talked about this coming into the season, my comment was this is the same junk that we saw prior to the splits, prior to 2000, the old playoff formats. What I saw that I didn't like was how they picked the number of teams, and they didn't from each conference, and it was too arbitrary. They could have done it 1 for every 3. And if you go down and you look, you see that it didn't quite work out that way. But yes, we knew this was what was going to happen, so there's no surprises, but there sure is a lot of disappointment that things work out and they can't make things better. And they had an opportunity to adjust from basketball, as Gary said. They can't make things better so that teams like a Lake Norman don't get left out. I think that's a disgrace that team's not in these playoffs.
Oh, Langston, you want to talk about the Green Hope Hillside situation? As it's been pointed out by a number of people that there's a sentiment that Green Hope dodged Hillside. Well, I'm going to invoke the music trend we've been working on from our recent game show segment and bring in another group, the OJs, with an old hit that the OJs had called Unity. Unity. We must have unity. For united we stand and divided we fall. Well, I'm going to give you some unity right here that unites the Greater Triangle and Greater Triad areas right here. And Langston, you want to talk about the Green Hope Hillside situation? We don't have enough time to talk about that because there are a lot of people who'd like to talk about that situation who, and everyone here knows what I mean. If we're going to talk about Green Hope Hillside in football, then we may as well talk about West Charlotte Ardrey Kell in 2018-19 basketball. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But moving right along, again, it is what it is. It is what it is. You can only play the teams that were put before you. And if you beat those teams, then keep going. So it is incumbent upon us to continue to move forward and celebrate the student athletes representing proudly their schools and communities who will begin competing on Friday night this week, who have persevered all year long to put us in a position where we were able to play a season. And for whatever the circumstances were, they earned the opportunity to do this. You can only play who's put in front of you. You can only cover the games that are scheduled to be played. And for those who have these opportunities and these most unique, unfortunate circumstances, it is what it is. So let's celebrate those student athletes who are going to strap on proudly their uniforms for their schools and communities beginning this Friday. And let's celebrate what could be a great playoff season ended with crowned state champions who will be champions just as much as in any other season. It's all about the kids.
Well, I agree with that. No asterisks this year on the champions. But one team that's not going to the playoffs, Chris, is North Stanley. They had to forfeit their playoff game due to COVID Polk County advances. Are you guys concerned, and we'll start with Chris, that this could happen later on in the playoffs as we get close to a state final?
Absolutely. And I think every coach in the entire bracket, 4AA through 1A, is as well. And I've had some conversations with some coaches who have had some very pointed conversations with their players to make sure that they're being careful, staying safe, staying home, and trying to avoid communication with other people. And and this is a comment that was told to me. You're not preventing your players from, you're not quarantining them to their home when they go home. But I had one coach that told his players, he said, it's one thing if COVID finds you, but make sure you don't go out and find the COVID. So don't be careless and get yourself out there in a situation that could jeopardize your team.
Yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to get you guys' thoughts. We got news today that Mike Natoli has stepped down at Independence. He said that it was just too far to drive in every day from Troutman. He bought a house that's even further away. Dale, your thoughts on Coach Natoli? He helped stabilize the program to some extent. I know they want to get back to what they were. Just your thoughts.
It's a tough situation at Independence because a lot of people think of Independence as the Tommy Knotts era and don't understand where Independence was before up and down team. And then even more so, if you think about it, after Tommy, you had Geiler, and Geiler did okay. But then immediately after Geiler, you get Evans, you get Harden, Scott Young, and then
Evans had him 11-1.
Evans had him 11-1. Evans had him undefeated and lost his first game in the playoffs. So that's the mistake Independence made. But Coach Natoli came in. His senior players had 4 head coaches that they had reported to.
Wow.
You don't have stability. Granted, Scott Young didn't coach. He didn't coach a football game, but he was still their coach, and so. Yeah. You got to have stability. And when you look at Independence, and when I talk to coaches about is Independence an opportunity for me, as I've talked to coaches in the past, it's one of the things you have to look at is the administration's stability and being able to bring Tommy brought a whole staff in, kind of like D-Day, storming Normandy. He had coaches that were with him from his days at Harding. By the time Coach Natoli took over, there was no leftovers, no continuity with the previous coaching staff. So he had a tough job. And then, of course, he never moved from Statesville. So,
he was driving an hour, and now he's going to drive an hour and a half, and he's got 4 kids. And I was listening to him tell me the story. I was like, that's a lot. Grice, your thoughts on this job, this move? You made an interesting comment in the back there. What do you think?
Yeah, I just think it's a tough job. I mean, you have the historical relevance there of just the numerous state titles. Was it 7 that Tommy Knox won? And I just think it creates a tough situation determining where the school was then versus where the school is now. And I think a big thing, and my head coach will always joke, if you ask him, a common phrase I use is a neighborhood change. Back then, there was no Butler. There was no Rocky River. The east side was flourishing a lot more. Eastland Mall was still there. You had more things on the east side comparative to where you have now. So I do think that hopefully as they're looking to get a new coach in, they're understanding the current demographics, the current landscape that they have within high school football in that area, and that they understand that and bring in a guy and give him time to build up the program to hopefully get to a level to be confident with Hickory Ridge, Butler, and Myers Park. So I just hope that they preach, patience with that. I mean, Coach Natoli, Coach Van Horn, all those guys over there, they are great coaches. No, don't get me wrong. And it's just one of those situations where you hate that they experience some loss. And Brian and I have talked about this a lot of times, where you try to keep your kids. You see a number of kids. I mean, the Nelson kid, the running back at Butler, who's having a fantastic year, was at Independence year before. One example. So, it's just an unfortunate situation, but it's a different landscape than it was. Hopefully they understand that and bring in a guy that.
Sam, you get the final word. You're a Butler guy. You know all about that Menhill-Matthews corridor. What do you think about that job and what it takes to win there?
I think it's a really good job for somebody because it's not a program where you have to rebuild completely. It already has some good things going already for it. The tradition, you got to welcome it. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes some people have made in the past. They try to ignore the Tommy Knotts era and the Geiler era, where you need to welcome it, communicate, have guys that come back and communicate and talk about the pride that was there, because once they restore that pride, there's a lot of athletes that live in the Independence area still. Like there's still a lot of kids there that come play. It's just a lot of them go to Butler now, or they'll go to, Vance, or they'll go somewhere else. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's where they lose some of their guys. If they keep everything they're supposed to keep, then they'd be pretty successful.
All right. Well, it's time to go back to the corner, and we got Charlotte's second Sweet 16, and we got the Raleigh Sweet 16, and we got a few changes. Let me find Chris's theme music. I'm all out of sorts as I usually am on.
We don't need no theme music.
No, we got to have theme music.
Hey, before we throw the graphic up, Langston, I just do want to throw out a little bit of a caveat, and you and I discussed this week when we were putting together these. There are some teams that you might think should have been in the second Sweet 16, I think in fairness, we yielded towards some of the teams that are actually playing this week. So, you look at some of those teams that were dominant and wonder, hey, why ain't we in there? That's probably your reason why, but I'll certainly break them down with this second Sweet 16. Looking at it, starting right there from the top, A.L. Brown, 6-1, had a dominant 28-0 performance over Concord in the Bell game Friday night. I was there. Hats off to Concord, though. They came in there with a great defensive plan. That game probably could have been 56-0, but they played the Wonders pretty tight. South Point right there at 5-2. Their season is over due to the playoff brackets. Shelby 5-2. They will continue. I'm pretty sure they're going to rise into the Sweet 16 again. Burns, them as well. Mallard Creek, hey, we've talked about it all year, Grice, and you guys. Mallard Creek could still beat most of the teams in there without a week of practice. They could go in there and line up head-to-head. You got to recognize the Creek because they are a phenomenal team. Watauga 5-1 got that opening week game against not Mount Tabor. I forget who they played. Mount Pleasant. I think that's a team that could very well find themselves in a third-round matchup with Shelby. So Mount Pleasant's a team that's going to rise. Statesville 6-1. They've got every opportunity to rise. Bunker Hill, we mentioned them. Salisbury, Ashe County. Monroe. All of these teams are teams that are playing this upcoming Friday night. Thomas Jefferson, Pine Lake Prep, West Lincoln, Alexander Central. Again, there's some teams in there like Chase, RS Central. Hey, we know you guys are good. You've had a phenomenal year, and I would feel really good lining you up against most of these teams. But I think we just kind of yielded more for the teams that are still playing because they deserve to be recognized too.
Grice, any thoughts of that list?
That's a good list. I mean, I think, shout out to Coach Brian Hampton, Piscopo, area guys up in Ashe County. That's got to be one of the first times they've been there in that list. Another conference championship, I think, gives them 3 straight. Seeing Pine Lake Prep in there, Coach Trotter has done a phenomenal job this year. I think, really building that program up. I'm trying to think of some of the others by memory there, but definitely, cool to see some of the new faces in there. Like we said with South Point, I mean, their season being over, and they really didn't do anything wrong really in those 2 losses. So heartbreaking, but no, definitely a solid list, like Chris said. Even the teams that are in there are some quality teams.
We get to rank 50 teams. Again, I say it every week when we do this. I mean, that just shows how deep the Charlotte region is. I mean, we could have ranked 50 teams and been very, very confident in those 50 teams we put out there because this region is what it is. It's pretty dadgum good in football.
Let's take a look up East, Chris. What you got in Raleigh?
All right, here's the Raleigh News and Observer Sweet 16 coming in number 1 for the 3rd week in a row. Rolesville 6-0, Cardinal Gibbons 6-0. Those are the 2 dominant teams. And let's just go ahead and throw in Cleveland 7-0. They're one of the top teams in that 3AA East bracket in the West. Apex Friendship. They've got Pinecrest Friday night. I can't wait for that game. Panther Creek 7-0, going to host Olympic. I really want to see how that goes down. Wake Forest 5-1. We haven't forgot about Coach Reggie Lucas and the Cougars. They still are a recent 3-time state champion, so they're going to have to be dealt with. Clayton at 6-1. Hillside, we've mentioned them tonight already. Princeton 7-0. They've got a huge game on the eastern side of the state against John Holmes. Coach Paul Harger, that's going to be a great game. Heritage is out, by the way. They are not in the playoffs, 4-2. Middle Creek's got a big game against Richmond County Friday night. Chapel Hill is in. Southern Durham is in. Millbrook will play Wake Forest Friday night. Leesville Road, they're still in it. And Greenhope, obviously, we've mentioned them, dropped out. Holly Springs, they're also out of the playoffs. I
don't want to be disrespectful, but I just got to say something. Mallard Creek.
Oh, here we go.
Mallard Creek would beat everybody on that.
I wouldn't because you have some guys. Again, if we were in the East, Wake Forest being that low, we would be pounding the drum very similar to Mallard Creek. I mean, how dangerous they are. You talk about Leesville Road at 15. I mean, I think they had a rocky start earlier, but Chris, who did they lose to? Gibbons maybe, and I can't remember who the other team.
Who are we talking about?
Talking about Leesville Road.
Leesville Road lost to Gibbons, and they got beat really good by being smashed by Millbrook.
And, and so you got some teams there that I think, again, Leesville made it last year. I mean, of course, they got smashed by Vance. So there's some quality teams there, Grant. I wouldn't go that far, but, I think that is a tough part.
I'm not saying they're not good teams. I'm just saying there's a difference between good and, being great. Let's just
let's move forward, man. Hey, it's Grices Gems. We don't need no stinking music. Let's get in here. We're talking about Princeton 7-0 1A school out of Johnson County. Got to highlight my man, Jaden Brooks. Had 24 carries, 291 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 58-27 win over previously unbeaten Rosewood. Yeah, they had a 7-0 regular season. I don't know the last time they've done that. What'd you say?
We got to get an ID check on that guy. That
guy looks like a man. I mean,
he runs up right like Eric Dickerson.
Hey, for the season, 11-13 and 14 touchdowns, man. That was great to get it at 1A school in Johnson County on here. Let's go forward to Forest View. So they had a big win over Stuart Kramer, 45-19, and we are highlighting Jamarian Dawkins. He ran 22 times for 276 yards, completed 6 of 10 passes for 60 yards and a score. That was big out of Forest View. And again, it seems like they had a pretty good year. Jamarian Dawkins with a huge game here. Let's highlight him. Did we freeze up, man? Oh, there we go.
Hope not. You freeze up?
Man, it's not slow, is he?
Yeah, it's like he's moonwalking right now.
I think I can beat him.
Still can't catch him, though. I don't care how slow it looks like he's going.
Yeah. What are they playing? Are they playing at
Catawba Ridge?
Carolina School? Yeah.
Catawba Ridge, beautiful stadium.
Yeah, we got to get to my next guy. This is my favorite name on the Grices Gym. This is like one of the all-time names on here.
He's got a good name. What's his name? So I can kind of get ready.
All right, here we go. This is it, right?
Yeah.
Yep, here we go. So my favorite name, Mikey DePasquale out of Wake Forest. So he had, again, that is DePasquale. I had to learn that links to help. Thank you for the help there. He's a sophomore. I repeat, he is a sophomore. Had 18 carries for 243 yards and four touchdowns in a 48-35 win over Heritage. They actually played this game on Saturday. So big time game there by Mikey DePasquale, again, a sophomore with a big game over Heritage.
Good stuff.
Well, since it's frozen, hey, well, we'll highlight the last guy. Hopefully we can show it. If not, at least let it be known.
Yeah,
the last guy, Sammy Pinckney out of East Rowan, had a school record 6 touchdowns and 393 yards. Yes, 393 yards in a 51-23 win over North Iredale. And that's the 31st. I'd love to look this up. Thanks to our stats team. Is the 31st most yards ever from a North Carolina public school athlete. So anytime you ball that well, we got to recognize you here. So sorry we couldn't get your highlights shown. But again, as we talk, man, as we get into the playoffs, big-time games, they need big-time performances. So if you ball, you will get the call out here from Grices Gems.
If you ball, you get the call.
His segment is so good, don't he? He's good at that.
Yeah, he's going for a job, I think. All right, it's time for Kenzie.
It's Kenzie time. Let's go. Where's Kenzie at? If it's Kenzie time.
I'm somewhere.
There you are. All right. And we're blacked out everywhere. I was like, what's going on? So, Kenzie, I heard you interviewed one of my favorite players, and I talked about him last week. Who was it this week?
You know, you got Elijah McWilliams, otherwise known as Mookie. He put the nail in the coffin against Vance, and, you know, you got to highlight that because, I mean, that's definitely my favorite moment of the year.
I know you were extremely hyped. Being an analyst, what does it feel like to not go to any other games outside of Huff?
I've been to a lot of games outside of Huff.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding with you. That was good. Now,
that was good. That was good.
He's probably the most underrated running back, like I said, that does not have an offer like where he should have. He is really good, and if they feed him, they'll win a state championship. I mean, he's really good.
I agree. I think both of the running backs in the backfield have, lit it up this year, and they weren't known coming in, and I think they've absolutely excelled. And, the reasons Huff's in that number 1 seed right now. So
no doubt. Well, let's run the clip. I want to hear what he had to say. I want to know what his favorite superhero is.
Today we're here with Elijah McWilliams, Huff running back. Elijah, big game against Vance. You were the one with the 80-yard run to put the nail in the coffin. How did that feel?
It feels great to be the nail in the coffin because, they counted me out all game and, they talked a lot of trash to me during, before, and after the game, But it feels amazing to be the one to shut them up and let them know that I can do that to them.
Yeah, and talking about the talk, it's been, constant on, more on their side, a little bit on your side. You've stayed away from all of that. Why'd you choose to do that?
I decided to let my play show for itself because, being a short guy, it counts you out. So I showed them on the field.
Yeah. I talked a little bit with Coach Griner last week, and he says that you're a big lifter. You squat like 500 pounds. Is that right?
Yeah, 530.
Dang. That's like 3 of me.
Yeah.
Why do you choose to put so much time in the weight room?
I choose to put so much time into the weight room, well, because one, genetically, I know I'm a stronger guy, and 2, that's what it takes to be a good running back. If you don't put time into the weight room, then you're not a running back. You got to prepare your body for those big hits. You got to prepare the block lineman on occasion, and you have to be able to jack those guys up for your quarterback to be able to stand in that pocket.
All right. And how did you get the nickname Mookie?
So when I was younger, they used to call me Moo, and as I got older, they call me Mookie. So it just came along.
All right, Elijah. Now we got a speed round. You ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite color?
Green.
What's your favorite movie?
I don't have one.
What's your favorite TV show?
I don't have one. I don't really watch TV that much.
All right. If you were a superhero, who would you be?
The Hulk.
And if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Africa.
Sweet. Thank you, Elijah. Appreciate it.
Sure.
I love it.
My kind of man.
How many kids we've interviewed on that aspect, Kenzie, that they all say Superman, 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 Superman. They all say it.
They all do.
My man said the Hulk. Like, how do you
I mean, if you're squatting that much, it better be the Hulk. I mean,
yeah, you got to love it. Grice, am I going to get it right? Or am I going to mess up?
No, you got it today. You got it.
Here we go.
you know, we got Isaiah Trent and a Butler.
Stop now, Langston.
You're right. You jinxed him, Grice.
I think he did.
What am I supposed to say? No, like it's not gonna work.
Yeah, and then it would work.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding with you, man.
I don't know what's going on with this thing. It did this a couple weeks ago. Let me try it again.
It was something going on with the Grices Gems too. Like it was like
Yeah.
We got to, like I said, we need to start a collection and get Langston away from the dial-up and get him right.
New internet.
Dude, I got like fiber internet, man. It's not
now it's fiber. That boy got like it's like sparkling. That's the only thing.
It's not that. I don't know.
It's better than mine.
They trying to say
trying to call somebody
AOL.
right now, and she's unable to call.
Like the little blue bar.
Like AOL.
Well, you got fiber.
I do.
I thought that was more like granola bars. Then again,
I'm taking Alex out.
Every time,
that's the connection. He's got a bunch of
some people out there who talk junk, and all these people who are talking junk as we get ready for the playoffs. You know, you sit and stand sometimes, and you have to think, man, this reminds me of granola. It's full of fruits, nuts, and flakes.
Oh my goodness!
Oh god,
Alex is on one right now.
I can't with Alex right now.
Alex is on one today. That's for sure. He's on one today. Okay, I'm gonna give this one more try. We might have to abandon ship, not to put it somewhere else. I don't know what's going on. I've had it. This is like I thought I had the problem licked, and it's reoccurring today.
It ain't gonna happen.
It's just like the playoffs. You can only play with what you have, and so we go.
I mean, it says it's playing, but it's not. You guys can't see it, so I don't know.
Yeah,
it may come up eventually. It was spinning too slow.
Yeah.
You
need to call that dial up, and well, it'll take a while to get a hold of. But
there you go.
And again, it's just like the season. It's just like the season for a lot of teams. They were, and you know, Michael Jackson talked about them and their season gone too soon.
Gone too soon. All right.
I would like to note that I do know who that is.
Hey, there we go. You have to write that down.
All right, we're gonna go to gloom and doom and keep the show rolling. Alex, take it away. Here we go.
There's no gloom and doom here right now because we're here at the high school football playoffs, and you can only play who's in front of you, and we can only talk about the teams who are playing. So there's no gloom and doom here. Let's keep it rolling right here. So this first round that we got here, returning to school. I'm a little disappointed by this because we got too many students out there who thought that in remote learning that we weren't in school. Well, we are. This is school. So I can talk about that later. But as return to school, which one's got to go after Labor Day, January 2nd, or the Monday after spring break? Let's go to our distinguished, retired social studies educator emeritus, Mr. Gary Richmond. Start us off. Which one's got to go?
I'm going to say after Labor Day, because you realize you got 9 months left of going to school. Spring break, it's downhill, and everybody loves to go back to school after Christmas because you get to show off your new stuff, But the Tuesday after Labor Day, that's painful because you can't even see the light at the end of the tunnel the day after Labor Day.
Dale.
I love it, Gary, because as soon as you said, I'm thinking Labor Day too, for almost the same reasons. It just seems like it's too early in the year to have a break because, you just started going, no, I know Kenzie is a student you want to have.
It's never too early for a break, Dale.
Do what now?
It's never too early for a break.
It's never too early for a break. I understand. But, it's like you just got going and now we're going to have a break. But, wow, it's a long time till the next break. So, yeah, I would say after Labor Day.
Kenzie.
I think after spring break's going to go because I think we should just end school at spring break. I mean, that's how I interpreted the question.
All right. I'm going to be the contrarian here because I am a school administrator. No, Labor Day's got to stay. I mean, I'm sorry. We have to keep moving. And the name of the game is test scores. We have to stay. January 2nd has to stay. We have to keep going again in the name of test scores. That's the bottom line. Monday after spring break, no, we have to finish strong. We're on the upswing right here, all in the name of test scores. Bottom line, and we're gonna make it happen. So if I gotta get rid of one of them, I'll let January 2nd go in terms of just because you never know where the calendar is going to fall, and that can make it kind of tough out of those. But no, Tuesday after Labor Day, the name of the game is student achievement. We got to roll. Spring break, we got to finish strong, get ready for EOCs. We got to roll. So and AP exams, we got to go. So let's move right along. All right, one's got to go. High school state championship sites on a college campus at the higher seed, rotating between the east or west. Which one of those is going? Dale, start us off.
Well, when I read this, I'm seeing that rotating between east and west the way it used to be. There was good to that and bad to that. There's also the playing on the college campus is I think a great thing. I think the higher seed, because the higher seed's not necessarily the better team always. So out of these, I would chunk the higher seed.
Kenzie.
I agree with Dale. I think playing on a college campus is, one of the funnest things. I remember my freshman year, the site for the state softball tournament was at Bogle Field, which is the Arkansas Razorback softball stadium. And that was the reason. I mean, obviously state championship, but it was like you just play on Bogle Field. That's pretty cool. That's where the team you grew up watching plays. And so I think there's a lot of pride that goes with playing at a college stadium. So that has to stay. And then, I don't know, East and West, keep it, I guess.
Gary.
Like she said, the college campus, that's great. I think you should be let me reword that. I don't like the rotating basis between East and West because you could be the higher seed and still have to travel to a lower seed. I watched that process take place in the 80s and in the 90s, where you would have a great team from from Charlotte, and they would have to go down east and
West Charlotte.
Yeah, and all the tickets would be sold, and you couldn't get in, and the field was a mess. It was just always something that didn't sit right. So I'd get rid of the rotating bases.
Higher seed has to go because every campus is not set up to host these events. Some are, some aren't, and that is what it is. It's obvious that Langston Wirtz spoke to everyone on this panel beforehand, except for me, because the college campus and the rotating between East and West would help meet Langston's desires to have greater balance so he wouldn't get to talk so much about East teams having a quote-unquote home game in state championships, which Langston's never talked about, by the way. Or it would open for the possibility of beautiful facilities at places like UNC Charlotte and Davidson and Queens University and other greater Charlotte area venues hosting events, which Langston has talked about, by the way. But it also wouldn't make up, if we rotate between the East and West, and we keep that in, that wouldn't make up for things that happened, like the 1987 state final, when Garner came all the way down to Memorial Stadium in Charlotte and put the wood to Harding 40-21. So if you can get it done, you can get it done if you're that good.
I was at that game.
so I'm tired of all that stuff. But the higher seed deal, you just never know. Some schools, through no fault of their own, aren't set up to do that. So higher seeds got to go.
Anthony Barber. Yes, sir. Anthony Barber. What a running back. He had a great game,
versus Tommy Knox.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Well, that was Tommy's first time. Come on. That was his first time at the state championship.
But then again, the most memorable part of that game was the old disco, the old disco carpet in the old press box at Memorial Stadium. But yeah, moving right along. All right, so one's got to go. The next sanctioned sport, which one shouldn't it be? What's got to go? Boys volleyball, competitive cheerleading, and field hockey. Kenzie, start us off.
This one's hard because I feel competitive cheerleading has been around a long time. I think we've all seen, if you've watched cheer on Netflix, you know for a fact it's a real sport. Like, it's absolutely insane. I could never do what those girls do or those boys do. Shout out to them. So that's got to stay. I think field hockey and boys volleyball, though, are pretty upcoming. I think boys volleyball, I would like to see a sand volleyball variation to that. I think there's a lot of different options you could go with that. So I think boys volleyball has to go because I think there's so many different options that you could choose and vary it up a little bit.
Gary?
This one's easy for me. It's competitive cheer. Now that I don't have to work in the schools on a daily basis, there's so much drama attached to cheerleading. If you go to any public school AD and ask him the one thing that gives him the most trouble, it's the cheerleaders. And finding a cheerleader coach. No cheerleader coach lasts more than 2 seasons. And it's just always drama attached to cheerleading. And so I think if you're going to keep score at it, it's going to be even worse for ADs and school administrators dealing with competitive cheer. So that's the one that would have to go for me.
Yeah.
Darn, Gary, why'd you have to throw that logic in there? Because I'm right there with Kansas. I think that from my view, cheerleading is a sport, and let
me catch you, Dale. Let me catch you on that.
Uh-huh.
The federal government, Title IX, says cheerleading is not a sport. Okay. Because a lot of schools.
Do you trust the government on everything?
I'm just telling you what they say under Title IX. Cheerleading is not a sport because schools would use it to balance the ratio between males and females by not having a cut for cheerleaders. And it's not a very expensive sport. And so now go ahead.
I have a hard for me, I think I'd like to see field hockey, remain. I would throw volleyball. Your logic was very good on cheerleading, and almost it's got me on the fence. Because I can agree that there probably is a lot of drama there, but yeah, that's it. I'm sticking with it. That was good logic.
All right, I'm going to make this nice and simple and say what it is going to be. Competitive cheerleading is on the way to being sanctioned at some point. Field hockey is on the way to being sanctioned at some point. They're both going to beat boys volleyball. Boys volleyball has to go. And to Gary's point about a cheerleading coach not lasting more than 2 years, I'd like to take this opportunity to commend Cardinal Gibbons High cheerleading coach Jennifer Marks, who has been Cardinal Gibbons' head cheerleading coach for 25 years.
Wow.
She is an exemplar. She works in the pharmaceutical industry. She's a wife and mother and a mother of 5 and an absolutely lovely lady who has persevered, excelled in all that she does, and has led Cardinal Gibbons to 3 NCHSAA Carolina Cups in 2007, 2011, and 2015 in her 25 years as the Cardinal Gibbons cheerleading coach. So praise be Jennifer Marks.
Friend, congrats to her.
God bless her.
Yeah.
All right. And the last one we got here, summer refreshment, snow cone, milkshake, smoothies. What's got to go, Kenzie?
A smoothie. I mean, milkshakes, that's a gift from God right there. Snow cones, that's like, when I think summer, like I think like the red, white, and blue snow cones. Something I always did as a kid. You go to a little snow cone shack. It's called Shave the Planet. I would always get tiger blood, cherry, and like raspberry stuff. It was great. No one likes, like, smoothies are like healthy. I'm not looking for a healthy thing. I'm looking to indulge.
Jerry.
Did you say me?
Yes.
Okay. For me, it's got to be the snow cone. The idea of just buying ice. I just seem like a snow cone. The juice is gone, and all you stuck with is crushed ice. So I'm gonna let snow cone go, and I can go with the milkshake and smoothies.
Dale.
Yeah, so when I saw this question, I'm like, how is this even a question? Snow cone's got to go because, we all like milkshakes, and smoothies can be good too. Snow cones, they're good, but no. Get that out of here.
Gary's so funny about that. That was good. Like, it's just nice.
I got one simple question on this. Why in the world am I going to pay money for some overpriced concoction when I can go get 8 packs of Kool-Aid at the grocery store, and I can make the Kool-Aid and I can pour it in a container and I can put it in the freezer and let it chill and get it nice and frosty and get a little bit of ice right there?
Mm-hmm.
And I got a snow cone. Where am I going to pay for that? Just because I can go to some stand as the truck in the neighborhood.
Alex,
come on, man.
Because it's American.
Now I will say this. I will say this. All right. If Addison Hughes is running her snow cone stand, I'll come patronize.
I'll tell you what, I was so poor that our snow cones was putting Kool-Aid in the ice cubes and putting a toothpick in it. But we grew up so poor that we didn't even have brand name Kool-Aid. We had like the Food Line Kool-Aid.
All right, it's time to go to the corner, find out who's in the Sweet 16 in Charlotte.
All right, guys, we've talked about.
Hold on, Chris. Chris, before you go, I wanted to get Kenzie's reaction. Huff is number 1.
I've been waiting all season for this. Vance, they've been there. They deserve to be there. I'll give them that. They deserve to be there. There was a lot of talk going into it. We beat Vance last year in the regular season. People forget that. There's a lot of doubters, including one on this very show. We got it. We heard the doubters. We said, we're going to show you what it's about. Came out there, Bald versus Vance won. you know, it's a vibe. Huff Boys on top.
All right. Hey.
All right. I just had to get Kenzie's thoughts. Go ahead, Chris.
Congrats, Kenzie, to all the students and athletes over at Huff. Congratulations. But, guys, we went over the brackets. We went over the other Sweet 16, the Raleigh, the second Sweet 16. Let's look at the big boys here tonight. Coming in number one, Huff, obviously, they beat Vance, rightfully so, number one team in the state. But Vance ain't very far back, and we heard Coach Ferebee tonight. I like his chances in a rematch. I'll throw it out there right now. If these two teams are on a collision course to play again, I think it's going to be a doozy of a ball game. Weddington right there, we had Coach Capone. Them guys are certainly right there in the mix as well. Here's where we go. Myers Park, they're still undefeated. Butler. That was a close ball game earlier in the year. I think Butler has greatly improved. Those two teams are knocking on the door, will be dangerous for anybody they face here moving forward in the playoffs. Richmond County 3-0. It's not that I think that they've taking a step back, because I certainly think they're incredible. Their roster is maybe the second best in the entire state. We just haven't seen them play in about 2 months, it seems. So, just kind of waiting to see the Raiders get back in action. They play Middle Creek Friday. I think it'll be a big win for them. Kings Mountain had the win over Crest, so you got them 7-8. Charlotte Catholic, they're still there. Ardrey Kell, they had that huge win over Providence. High Brighton still right there. Providence, Maiden. Maiden's got a huge test Friday against Salisbury. Olympic, Lake Norman. Lake Norman, they might not be in the playoffs, but by golly, they're going to be in our Sweet 16. And wrapping it up with Hickory Ridge, who is a phenomenal team as well. All these teams phenomenal. Congratulations to all of you for being ranked at this part of the season.
Got no issues with that Sweet 16.
Oh, really?
I think Kings Mountain maybe should be a little higher. They look dominant versus Chris.
Who are you going to put them in front of?
I'm not saying
everybody's so good.
Well,
I love it. Chris gets so bad. I love it.
I think Lake Norman could be a little hard. So I'm talking about everybody in the Sweet 16.
All right. Interest of time, you guys argued a lot about cutting down the high school Heisman. Grice put together some stats. Let's run over real quick who made it. This is part one. We cut down to 12. These are the first 6. Chris, you want to go through that real quick?
All right, here's the top 12 of the Charlotte Observer High School Heisman watch list. These are some phenomenal young men, by the way. Coming in number 1, quarterback from Greenville Rose High School, Wade Jarman. Young man, he's got an arm. He's really good. Tate Carney, I think he just scored another touchdown somewhere. He's been a scoring machine all year long. Love that young man. Obviously, we've seen his brother play at Wake Forest. He comes from a pretty good bloodline of some athleticism. Their dad's like a big construction guy, a big beefy guy. I think that whole family is athletes, and it shows. Jacob Newman, number 3, Myers Park. Coach Harmon was smart to shift his offense towards a running game with Newman. So great job with Newman right there. Congratulations. Javoy Rice Wilson, defensive end, Kings Mountain. He sent me a message on Twitter this week thanking me for making sure he was on the roster. That shows me manners, and that he's a good young man, and he's been raised right. So congratulations to you, son. Marion Hampton, Cleveland running back. I've been watching that guy since his 9th grade. Scott Riley told me when he was a freshman to keep an eye out on him, and he was absolutely right. And Averion Cole, linebacker at Vance.
I mean, to me, like, especially with him and Griner, I don't like to touch too many of the defensive guys, but to me, he's a very Tyrann Matthew type player. If I had to, compare, like, I looked at the stats. I mean, you're talking 35 tackles. He's got your 8 tackle for loss. You got a punt return TD. I mean, he's always in the mix, whether it's, in the box, whether it's playing safety. He just is one of those versatile guys. I know in the game against us, I mean, he was everywhere. And I mean,
I tell you what, that's how praise call him honey badger. I'm going to come back to you on the stats, guys. Look at the second 6.
All right, let's look at the other half of it right here. Dalen Smothers, running back Vance, very, very good running back. I think he just scored a touchdown as well. Byron Brown, he's a junior, by the way, quarterback at Rollsville. I think big things are on the way. Brady Whitson has got the game Friday night against A.O. Brown. Remember, he torched them for 450 last year, had a phenomenal year. I think he's the 2nd or 3rd best statistical quarterback leader in the state. That's going to be a big game. Hezekiah Newby, running back, Eastern Guilford. Unfortunately, they're not still playing, or he'd still be putting up buku yardage. Travis Shaw, defensive lineman at Grimsley. He's somebody you got to take account for if you're an offensive coordinator. And there we got right there. Curtis Neal, the defensive lineman at Huff. That wraps up your top 12 Heisman watch list.
That was Sam's special edition that he made me add in his kingship over the weekend.
No, he's right. I mean, that's like you said. I mean, Curtis likes to tout himself as the best lineman in the nation. I mean,
Sam said we can't have a thing without Curtis Neal. I was like, well, I mean, you're the star of the show. You want that. Guys, talk about some of these stats with these children.
Yeah, we saw a lot of, kind of chatter over the last little bit about these guys. And, wanted to highlight some of the guys. I mean, you see up top, Byron Brown, as Chris alluded to, with Roseville. I mean, you talk about 1,300 passing yards, 477 rush yards, and 22 total touchdowns. We talked about Tate Carney. I know he was a Grices Gems for that 8-touchdown game. He's got 24 total touchdowns and almost 1,400 yards. I mean, you talk about some great stats. Avarian Cole already alluded to. I think, with a lot of these defensive guys that Sam can allude to, like their impact is almost even as much as the stats. Some of that stuff can't be quantified. Marion Hampton, another running back, you're talking about 685 and 14 in only 5 games. Wade Jarman, that 72.7 completion percentage showed me, with 23 touchdowns, he is accurate as I don't know what. One of the most accurate quarterbacks in the state. Hezekiah Newby, 1,400 yards, 18 touchdowns.
6 games.
The KM Javari Rice Wilson, 19 sacks.
That's crazy. That's insane. In 7 games, that's insane.
That's big time.
7 games. And then, of course, is Chris, the last one he referenced. I might have to get up to, where's that, Kannapolis? Kid. Yes, that kid Brady Whitson there. 1877 as far as pass yards, 61% completion percentage as many times as he throws it, 24 touchdowns, almost 700 rushing yards, and 13 touchdowns.
And there's a video. He's a walking video game.
That's what I say. Some of these guys may not know the names, but the stats there really echo the type of kids that they are. And I'm glad that we have guys that reference our entire state. And so, I think that's important just to show that.
Speaking of stats, there's a question in Coach versus Coach. I'm really anxious to hear you guys debate. So let's go to Coach versus Coach.
Hey, and before we get into the Coach versus Coach, guys, I just want to make sure I do some house cleaning before we get in here. We are going to take the Heisman updated list, and we're going to trim it down to 3 on the April 27th show, and we're going to invite all 3 of those finalists to the show. So, man, I can't wait for that.
That's going to be huge. I don't know. There's going to be some arguing. I might call, Sam, a guy with horrible hair or something crazy, and his beard's less than mine or something without arguing. We got a lot of guys to the debate. He's going to want it to be all defensive guys, and I'm going to want it to be all quarterbacks. So I look forward to the discussion and debate, but there's no question.
I'll pick the reason, and I'll pick something in the middle. So we'll be very well represented.
For sure.
All right.
Let's lock that door, man. Let's lock the door. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. Coach versus Coach. Let's do it.
I know I've been locked in the cage all day. Langston's telling me to be quiet all the time, and
well, just so you can go ahead and get that energy out. I'm gonna let you take the first question, Coach Greiner. So, Coach versus Coach, do politics, and we've mentioned politics already today with the General Assembly and all that stuff. But do politics play too big of a role in postseason All-Star awards? Should it be just stats versus stats? Coach Greiner, you're on.
I definitely don't think it should be stats versus stats because that can be skewed based on the competition you're going against. I really think that people need to observe the eye test, watch film. There's film out on everybody. You can see the speed of the game. It's the same thing the colleges use. They don't look at stats. Colleges don't look at stats to recruit people. They look at the eye test. The eye test is so important. So I don't think it's really there's politics in everything you do, but I don't think it plays a huge role. I think it's just some people know, this guy's getting recruited by 15 Division I schools, and he passes the eye test and his team's winning. It's pretty obvious he's going to have a chance to win some type of awards. But if you go against a guy that maybe had 25 touchdowns, another guy that had 17 touchdowns, but that kid on film was totally different than the 25, just based on the competition, then it shouldn't be stat versus stat. Or I'll just go to the smallest school possible with the easiest schedule and then try to stat it up. That's the whole key. It's got nothing to do with that.
Griner, I get to take one of your favorite phrases here. See, you didn't answer the question. You're straddled between yes, you're straddled between no. Politics, unfortunately, do play too big a role in the postseason All-Star Awards. And that's, I think, where you get a lot of the distrust when it comes out to different schools, different entities creating their awards. I think, one thing that I think we strive to do, especially with the knowledge of someone like Chris Hughes, bringing in Langston, bringing in a lot of different voices helps to make sure we capture everything going on in the state. And I think a lot of times too many awards are too, certain, specific area. Like for us, people try to claim that we're too Charlotte specific or too Charlotte centric. That's one reason I know whether it's Gems, whether it's whatever, we try to highlight different areas because we know we've seen Dalen Smothers. We know what he can do. We've seen Tad Hudson. We've seen, Xavier Brown. We've seen all of these guys in these big time areas, big time schools, but there are guys in other areas that are doing big things, and so I think politics do play too big a role. And there's some guys putting up numbers. And that was exactly why we wanted to put out the stats today. Chris had mentioned these guys, I went there, wanted to do the research, and you see that between film and stats, guys are putting up numbers, even if they don't have a zip code that's in the Charlotte area.
Yeah, no doubt. They're on the list and they're competing. Like the kid from Davie County, he's got a legit chance of winning this whole deal. He's the only offensive guy that I think that is just superior in that Heisman race on the offense side of the ball. I think his defense all the way, like I said earlier.
But the fact that he's not playing anymore, they're not in the playoffs, is not going to hurt him going down in the next few weeks.
100% it will. Yeah.
And just to add on to what you guys said, and both of you made some really good points, but for someone who is involved with the media and with some of these postseason awards, whether it's the Shrine Bowl or stuff, coaches are absolutely politicking. I get phone calls all the time. Hey, man, I need this guy in. I need that guy in. So politics absolutely 100% are a part of it. But, Grice, you're right. It shouldn't be. But, it just kind of is what it is, gentlemen.
There's politics and everything, but I don't think that decides. I think the people that win these things, like, legit earned it. Like, Power Echols, when he won certain things, he was legit. When the quarterback that just went to Carolina that I think is the best, Drake May, I think he won some. Like, it goes pretty good. And then especially in the conferences, when you do talk about player of the year for each conference, it's really detailed out and, followed upon the coaches. And it normally everybody agrees on the same guy. I really do think that.
But, man, I have been in small conference or meeting where coaches blackballed other coaches, and, they were on the phone ahead of time saying, we will not pick this guy. So there's very much politics involved. Right. And it shouldn't be.
That's outside of where we're from then.
You're screwing kids when it gets to that point. All right, Coach Grice, you're up first on this one. Coach versus coach round 2. We're seeing a rash of NBA injuries after a short off season. Are you concerned about this for fall football upcoming?
Actually, no. I think where the injuries from that I've saw that would hit would be with the start and stop before actually this season. I think the fact that we've had 5 or 6 games where it wasn't a full season, more so a shortened season, and then you get an off season kind of to be able to rest, but not completely get away, and we're able to kind of get the strength and conditioning this off season that we sorely missed the off season before. So I don't think this fall will have the injuries. To start this year, we had injuries like none other. You talk about ankle fractures. I had my starting quarterback for all of 3 games this year completely healthy. Talk about another starter, dislocated elbow, multiple other starters with fractures and knee injuries and all those soft tissue injuries that come from a lack of exercise and a lack of proper strength and conditioning for a season. I think that going into this season, you won't see as many injuries. I think you'll see guys adequately prepared to play a full now 10-game season instead of 11. So I think we'll be a lot better and guys will be a lot more prepared.
Garner, what you got?
Well, his point was pretty good, but the aspect is this. I think that we've already seen injuries that are affected because we just played in the spring. And so I think it is a concern for me. Someone that normally, like say they lost, they played the first game and they tore an ACL. Well, they're not losing just that season. They're losing the fall season as well. So like major injuries, that's a concern to me because these kids lose 2 years of eligibility because of one injury, and that's kind of like the difference. Normally you have a whole year to get back and recover, and you might miss just that season you got hurt in, but you'll be back the following season. That's the one thing we're missing that's hurting kids.
Do either of you think that there's any certain position groups that are more prone to injuries, whether it be the linemen, the kickers, the skilled guys, or anything like that?
No, I would have to go lineman if I did. I think there's more of an outlet, with 7-on-7 for receivers to be moderately, active, if you will. But it's not as many options for the big uglies down there to get that trench work and be able to kind of hone their skills as much. So I know I'm concerned, especially with my group, with my O linemen, to make sure that they're truly in shape and that they kind of don't really lose some of the gains that they kind of made this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids like during this COVID gained tons of weight, like excessive weight, and that was a concern coming in. It's just that those people that got hurt, like a lot of them got hurt, and they're out for the fall as well, so you don't get to see the progress. So it's kind of sad. But yeah, I totally agree.
All right, let's go to coach versus coach round number 3. Coach Griner, you're going to be up for this one as soon as we get the question up on the screen. How much is officiating affecting the game this year? And worried if we continue to keep losing officials, will things get worse? Coach Grice, you're up. I mean, Coach Griner, you're up.
I'm here so I don't get fined. I'm here so I don't get fined.
I like that one.
I'm here so I don't get fined. Grice, you can go.
No, so I'll take it from a different avenue. So I've spoken to some officials. I think that there needs to be a shift. So we do know, we have a problem. Again, I'll try to be solutions oriented with this. We have a problem. We don't have as many experienced officials. I think that with leadership, when kind of addressing this situation, should more so focus on training. So I know, and I've talked with enough officials that tell me all the time that there are a rash of missed calls, or we're in a game and things didn't go the way they should because of an official, to send that into, I think, schedule. I can't remember his last name. I know his name Rodney is we always refer to. So send that in. And a lot of officials tell me they have weekly training where they go over those missed calls on a weekly basis to kind of build training, kind of help these referees understand what they should do. So I think that should be more of an encouraged shift for a lot of coaches to be able to do that, because if these training sessions can provide enough situations for these young officials to be able to learn, to be able to understand what they need to do, just as we ask our players and coaches to watch film to prepare for the games, I think that the quality and experience of these referees will continue to grow in a short period of time. Because we do have guys out there, and while it was, you had enough that opted out, we've got to focus more so, instead of worrying about what coaches may say, to quote unquote criticize officials, instead of helping to provide information for us to train, because that part has gone a little crazy. And to me, that's backwards. When we know that the quality of officials and officiating has gone down, that's inarguable. We don't have that other side where it's like, hey, how can we make them better? And I think it should be, a kind of a situation where it's teamwork. And because it's not, this is an adversarial relationship that's being created between coaches who feel frustrated because they can't say anything or can't deal with, situations to help improve the quality, and referees who know that they aren't as experienced as the others and are trying to make up for that by bravado and doing things to try to make, elevate their stature within the game. This is a powder keg, and that could only explode in a negative way. I think if we actually focused on a kind of the teamwork and actively helping to train these guys, we could see a better situation. So looking at it from that standpoint, there are a lot of changes that could be made, and hopefully everyone can look at it in that positive light to improve the quality of officiating and coaching going forward.
I would like to know one, like if someone could run the numbers, if we pay these officials $50 more a game, like how much would that cost for a whole season? You see what I'm saying? Like something like that. I would like to know that, because I think that they are underpaid, just like the coaches are underpaid. And me and Dale were arguing, back and forth not too long ago about this. And, I think that things can improve, just like we always had to adapt to the coaching world. Like, if you do bad 3 years, you're getting jeopardized. You got to, get away from your job as a coach. You got to move on and do something different. Like, you don't have a long span to improve. And so, officiating is going to definitely improve, I think, if we raise the prices, because it'll be competitive of people wanting to, get training and to be a part of it, to get the games, to get signed up for games. So I think that that's something we definitely can do in the future.
Yeah, guys, I wanted to chime in simply because I know on Saturday we all had a very heated texting about this situation because of what we witnessed in the Vance game. 17 offensive penalties. Now, Vance was guilty of quite a few of them, but I don't think they were guilty of all of them, in that officials have to show some discretion when calling penalties. Is it advantage, disadvantage? Does it affect the outcome of the play? Now, pre-snap penalties is a penalty. I mean, there's nothing you can do about jumping off sides as far as official. You can't ignore that. But they were calling things that veteran officials don't call. But from the coaching standpoint, I would like a lot more coaches to take the attitude of not blaming officials for the outcome of a game. I see so many coaches on Twitter talking about the officiating. You know, we wouldn't have lost hadn't it been for the officials or this or that. And I think you build a victim mentality when you blame losing on officiating. I also think you teach kids that I don't have to be accountable for how I play if I just blame the officials for my negative play. And, you know, I hate to see these coaches going on Twitter and blaming officiating. It does get bad sometimes, but that's a part of adversity. That's the human element of all sports. You have to play on the road. You have to play in adverse situations. And sometimes officiating is a part of that adverse situation. So I think it's a learning tool that coaches can use for their players. Hey, we're not going to be the victim, and we're going to hold ourselves accountable how we play. You know, it's easier to do in basketball because you're always telling the kids, okay, you got to judge the officiating. If they're going to call it close, you can't get close. You can't be physical. It's harder with football because most errors are errors of action as opposed to being too close or advantage, disadvantage.
Hey, I've got some food for thought here, and this is kind of a serious question to you guys, especially maybe a Grice or a Griner. You know, it's well documented that the NCHSAA needs officials. Coach Mark Dreibel speaks about it. Q Tucker, they've had commercials on TV about it. I think they're even waiving the registration fees. It's also been documented that, you know, former players and even former coach sometimes makes the best officials because they understand the game, the rules, the speed of the game, so on and so forth. Would you, as coaches, maybe as you wrap up your coaching career and move on to the next phase, would you consider being an official? Because, you know, I've done baseball officiating, and, you know, I've even thought about becoming an official just because I understand how much they need them. But what do you guys, as former athletes, former players, former coaches, think? Would you, at some point in your career, transition to want to become an official just to help the game?
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's something I would love to do if I couldn't coach anymore. And again, like I said, I have friends that are. And I mean, I think their biggest thing is that they want to stay close to the game that we all love. And I mean, I think it's a situation, if I couldn't do what I can, and you guys know me, I coach youth ball, 7-on-7, JV, varsity. I coach every possible thing I can. I love this game enough that if I can't do that and impact the game of these young men by coaching, I'll do it on the end of correction and whatever needs to be done. So I'm appreciative of these guys. I know a lot of them, and they see a lot of me. So I would definitely do that.
Yeah, I think the referee thing, we have to stop being so abusive to referees. They don't want to go do their job, and that's coaches. And I know you guys are talking this week about, you know, they need to do their job. But if you're abusive to them, they're going to stop coming, and we're not going to be able to play. I'm going to leave it with that, Sam, with real heavy final thoughts.
With that, that's a great time to leave me heavy right now. But one thing I want to say, my favorite show is coming on tonight. I want everybody to check it out because not many people know about it. It's called The Chosen. The Chosen is it's free. You can download the app or whatnot, but it's the best rendition of the Gospels I've ever seen. They had first season. It was phenomenal. They just started the second season. They're on episode 2 tonight. But it's just a really good aspect of, like, you know, it's hard to understand the Bible a lot of times, but if you're really interested in it, The Chosen is a phenomenal series to watch. Go check it out.
All right. Kenzie, 30 seconds. CMS is having in-person graduation. 2 guests per student. Ceremonies at Bojangles, Ovens, Convention Center. They will be live streamed. Your thoughts, real quick, 30 seconds.
I mean, I'm glad they let us have, you know, something normal. I mean, you know, we're back in person. We can't have a prom. So, you know, I really thought they were going to cancel graduation because that's kind of been their mood all year. But, no, good for us for having a little bit of normalcy. You know, I think I deserve it. So, you know, good for them for finally making a good decision.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. I'm Langston. That's Chris. That's Grice. That's Coach Grinder. That's Miss Kinsey. That's Dale. That's Alex. That's Gary Richmond. We are talking preps. We'll see you next Tuesday at 8. And I promise we won't be this heavy.
We can't help it.